Welcome to Rhode Island Spirituality. My name is Joe Mahan.
And I'm Steve Kuplast.
And on today's podcast, we're going to be talking passages from the Holy Bible and some of Steve and I's experiences going to church. So I want to start right off. Let's talk about both of us were baptized recently.
So baptism was a cool experience because my old self had died and I was reborn in Christ again.
Yep. Yeah. Now, you don't mind if I ask, how long were you baptized after you started going to church regularly?
I started, a month or so after I started going to church regularly was when I decided to get baptized.
Yep. And we were talking last week at church in the coffee room that both of us, about our second or third sermon, we raised our hand, to accept Christ.
Mine was over a sermon that was preached about temptations.
Okay.
And I knew that there was something that spoke to me pretty well. So I'm like, yep.
All right.
Time to dedicate my life to Christ.
Right, because I raised my hand my second week going to church. I was at Mountain View Baptist in Nevada. But for me, it took me 11 and a half years to get baptized. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
I'm on 12 years now. But I always thought...
Were you baptized in Nevada or in Rhode Island?
I was baptized in Awakening Church.
Oh, okay. Same with me.
July 11th.
Okay.
July 11th. I always thought when I came to the Lord in 2009, December, there was two things I wanted. I wanted him, I'll tell you, I wanted him to clean me up a little, because I was partying, clean. And I wanted him to, that was what I wanted, but I also wanted a solid. I wanted to have a real special lady come into my life, right?
Same with me, because I wasn't a party person, but I was a severely depressed person.
Yep.
At the time, I was looking for a possible partner to share life with.
Yeah.
Obviously, both still are, but
we both are, and so that's one of the reasons. And like I've told you, and I told Pastor David, one of the reasons I was reluctant to get baptized, I was afraid, concerned that after I got baptized, I wouldn't feel different. But I do, and I know you said
same with me. The same thing with me because I was talking to Julius about it. He's one of the leaders.
Yep.
And I was kind of reluctant to get baptized in it. He's like, "Oh, you'll feel so much different."
Right.
So I did.
Yeah, and that was amazing because when I started Awakening Church in October, I think 2020, because I moved back to Rhode Island, and within a year I got baptized. But Pastor David sat down with me once in the coffee room, and when we first met, and right away he said, "Have you been baptized?" I said, "No, I haven't." So he was egging me on, and Paige was very instrumental. And when I scheduled mine, I was just having coffee before work. It was like 5 a.m. because I get up so early. Yep. And I was just sitting there having my coffee, and it was like on my mind, like Pastor Jordan says, when the Lord puts something on your heart, it was on my mind, like schedule your baptism. It wasn't get baptized, it was schedule your baptism.
Mine was the same way. Like when I first got active with the Awakening Church for the first couple of weeks, every time I saw Julius or every time he would talk to me, it's the first thing he would bring up to me.
Okay.
So I'm like, when they had an opening, I'm like, okay, I'm taking the opening.
Yeah.
And Julius reminded me as soon as they had an opening, he was on the phone with me telling me, "Oh, there's an opening to get baptized." So I'm like, right.
Yeah, because it was both in both our cases, it was good advice.
Yes, exactly.
So so I didn't know it, and you were going to the Awakening Church in Providence.
I was, and then COVID hit, and they had then the schools they didn't have a building in Providence, so we were coming out of a school cafeteria, or school auditorium, and the school's like,
"Wow,
can't go."
Yep. Yeah,
I prefer the campus we're at now over Providence, but.
Oh yeah, and did you hear? I know you heard last week because we were sitting in the front row. That Awakening Church might be starting a Saturday service.
I did, because I've been to a couple of the Saturday services. With that night, there's maybe the handful of people that come?
Yeah, but now they're figuring just make it a full service.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do because there's so many people, especially for second service coming.
That they're thinking, because my church in Nevada, they had Saturday. They had 2 on Sunday, and for a while they had 2 on Saturday, 4 and 6 p.m. Then they went to 1 on Saturday. But it's a good idea to have 1 on Saturday because you see how packed we are on Sunday.
I think that's part of it because at least that's what I heard the rumors was because we're so not for first service but for second service we're jam packed.
And then a lot of times in our church. Some of us are going to go Saturday and Sunday.
I would be one of the ones that go Saturday for both days, actually.
And a lot of times people, like I know someone I work with, a nice lady, and she wants to get back into church, but she works Sundays. because in my industry you get time and a half on Sunday. So, but I also tell her you can always find a Catholic church on Saturdays, and
Exactly.
there's still Bible study all over the place on Wednesdays. But if our church has Saturdays, I could say, well, go to Saturday.
I think it
church.
would free up some people who can't go because they work Sundays. If they
Right,
had it
yeah.
Saturdays, they could at least go on Saturdays.
No, I was very happy to hear that they're thinking of having Saturday service. And then sometimes you go, you say, you know what, I got some things to do on Sunday. Let me go to church on Saturday. And
Oh, yeah,
then
they
it'll
can go,
free
yeah.
things up. So I think it's a great idea, especially you see it the way the church is growing.
Oh, exactly. I see it every single because I'm out in the parking lot every Saturday.
Right,
So
yeah.
I see all these people coming in every single day.
Yeah,
Not
and
every single day, but every Sunday.
right. So it's been growing after COVID. So was that because they were defiant? And I mean that in a good way.
It might have been. Oh, those are people that are starting to real. Those are people at the time like they need. Because I noticed that when COVID hit, people were
Yep.
looking for some kind of truth to whatever's going on.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people started coming to Christ at that time.
Yep. Yeah, because they're doing a great job. My brother's been going to church. You've been seeing
Yeah,
him.
I've seen him,
Never went. He's been going, and he's a natural. He was the one who was raising his hand. Secondly, I got to talk to him as far as maybe getting baptized early like you did.
I think
Go
the early
for
that
it.
does it. I know that now you have to see your testimony. But
Yeah, right.
I
Because
think he would. That's
Yeah.
it's worth it.
because he's saying already, he's been going a couple months. He's saying, I should have been doing this all along. I should have had my sons. But you don't know because the world doesn't tell you how good it is, how much fun it is, how positive it is. You meet friends.
Exactly.
And we're intellectuals. These teachings in front of me, thousands of years old. Oh, but the world, and I mean, when I say the world, I mean like cable TV. They make it like we're backwards.
Exactly,
So
yes.
why do they do that? Cable, because corporate media.
I think it has to do a lot with the corporate world we live in.
Right, yep. Because they make it where, if you're going to church or studying these teachings, you're backwards. And but when we were talking about this recently, how come Christians or churches don't buy commercial time? Like we could buy TV ads, we don't. You should, like even like what I might just do one with you, and I'll be the cameraman and you'll be the star. But basically, come to church on Sunday. You know what my premise is? It's like a Sunday morning club, which it is.
It is.
Because you see our church, you say it's like your social life, and it's mine
It basically
too.
is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And look at our friends since I moved back. All my new friends are from church.
Same thing with me.
Yep.
Ever since I moved back to Rhode Island,
Right. And why is it hard getting our friends to go?
I think it's because I think a lot of it has to do because they're afraid. I think they're afraid
Yep.
of change because obviously we're just natural at being afraid of change. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is because there's a lot of solitude when you come to Christ.
Yep.
So I think a lot of people don't like being alone.
Yeah. What do you mean solitude?
Like just being by yourself in the Lord's presence because
Yeah,
that's usually how God will speak to you is when you're in
Yep.
solitude.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is because we're so used to running around that
Yeah.
we don't know how to use our free time right.
Yeah, because I noticed, like, I've been with the Lord 12 years, and boy, there's been storms through that. Don't get me wrong. He said, but like my friend Johnny Nellis in Nevada, he loved the Lord, but he would get frustrated. I remember I was saying, man, things are getting things are getting worse. And he said, yeah, that's because you were his pointing downward.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now when you come to the Lord, you repent. And then, like Pastor Steve said in a sermon, I love the way he put it. He said, we are not perfect, but we see the progress we've made and we continue on in faith.
Exactly. Yes.
So, any like when you started going, like, what are some of the biggest things you've noticed in yourself?
Well, I tend to have more positive energy than ever
Yep.
before because I don't listen to what people tell me. Well, I mean, I'll listen to what people tell me, but I'll let God figure it out for me if it's the
Yep.
right advice or the wrong advice. Obviously, friendships were something I was lacking.
Yep.
I didn't realize how much of a lack of friends I
Yeah.
didn't have really. Before church, all I would do was get up, go to work or school, and come home.
Yep.
I didn't realize that friends were an important aspect of life.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah, because you see all the friends that we've met at church.
Exactly.
And you notice when we hang out, look at us now. We're doing a podcast. We do things. We don't just hang out and shoot the breeze. That's cool. But I notice when we hang out, we want to be
wanna
on our
do-
purpose.
Yeah, like if the church was never part of my life. I never would have done anything like this.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't have become a scientist.
Wow.
Obviously.
Yep.
That was something else that came
Yeah.
just from Christ.
Yep.
What else?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more things. I just can't think of anything else.
You know what I was thinking of last night? How the years I was with Christ, because I think of before how it was, and even like now when you're with Christ, you go through storms, obviously, but you notice there's more of like a foundation, like he says in the Bible. There's a rock.
Exactly.
In other words, oh yeah, this is going to pass, or I'm cool. Where you got that good foundation. Where before I can still think of how my mind was when I was in the world. Whoa, you're kind of like skating.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
we're with the Lord, like, oh man, some things are going on, but I feel that foundation. And I'll tell you one thing, as Wahid would say, he was sitting behind us, prayer works.
It does work.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed my prayer life's gotten so much better just from going.
Yeah, prayer works. You know who I've been praying to after my baptism? And this is something because I got baptized in a Protestant church, Mother Mary.
Yeah.
I've been praying to, because in the Protestant church, they kind of more focus on praying to Christ, where the Catholics will pray to the saints.
Okay.
So I was talking to some of the pastors at our church, and I bring it up, because what you learned in Julius and Tom's crew, keep it real.
Exactly.
So I tell them, I've been praying to Mother Mary since my baptism, but it's working because a lot of things I pray to her, I'm getting the deliverance. The other night I was praying because I'm looking for some good news about something. Oh, Mother Mary. And now what I learned from Julius and Pastor David, maybe kind of go through Christ to Mother Mary. But what I'll say is because I don't pray to the Father unless I go through Christ.
Okay, same with me.
Right, because it says, you want to go to the Father, you come through me. Because I don't even really go to the Father anymore because of that. But our good friend Jordan and I, when we came to the Lord, we came to the Father. We didn't know Christ.
I didn't need the same with me, so I didn't realize you're supposed to have come to Christ before you can go to the Father.
Oh, so your first relationship also is with the Father.
It was because I didn't know that, and I couldn't figure out, and then Julius had explained it to me. It's like, you got to come to Christ before.
Yeah, because I go to Christ. And I don't really communicate that much with the Father anymore. I go to Christ. But as far as Mother Mary, sometimes I'll say, do you mind if I release you to Mother Mary? I want to talk about some things. Like I said, we're both trying to meet someone, in church. We're trying to meet someone special. So I kind of say, well, you talked about, but sometimes I also pray, both of you sit in. And I was praying the other day. I said, well, I'm going to pray to Mother Mary. And that day I was praying the other day, I was praying about something. When I woke up from the nap, the letter was there. The good news I'm wanting.
Nice.
Isn't that amazing?
What was the good news?
Well, I'm trying to move back to my hometown.
Where's your hometown?
North Providence.
Oh, North
Because
Providence.
now I'm out in the country. So stuff like that, just getting into this right building, things like that, praying to the Mother Mary. But I said, you know what? I'm going to pray to the Mother Mary. But I said, well, I got you here. I said, my friend, work on Steve's arm. So I sent a prayer for you to get that arm right, which I think things are going better.
It is. It's going much better than before. But
right.
There's still some weakness in it.
Yep. Now, other things as far as church that you've noticed made your life better?
Well, obviously, like I said, with the career, because I didn't really I was bouncing from job to job to job.
Wow.
So now I have an actual career that I can wake up to and go to on a day-to-day basis.
Nice, yep. And
I don't want the career to be my only focus in life, but I actually have something I actually enjoy going to.
Yeah, that's big, yeah.
Let's see, being able to be on my own, because I was never on, because I was 30, I'm 34, so I didn't start living on my own until I was 32.
Yep.
So I've been able to
do
some stuff on my own without having to report to somebody else.
So you had some great advances in your life since coming to Christ.
What else? Obviously, like I said, the friends were the thing I was lacking the most of.
Yep, and you see the good friends we meet, Jordan, Rodney,
and a few other people.
Yep, and now you're going on a crew with Pastor David on his crew.
On his crew on Saturday
Now, is
mornings.
that crew a lot of talking scripture?
It's kind of, we go over the word from the previous week. Or say, because crew is every other week, so we'll go over whatever's, say, the word from the last 2 weeks. We'll talk about how people's weeks were, any praise reports, any prayer requests.
Yep, yeah.
And we'll basically just, whatever comes to mind, we'll just talk. It doesn't have to be related to Christ or anything. It can just be whatever's on our mind.
Right, because I notice sometimes in church, and I've heard Pastor Jordan say it, and I've heard our friend Jordan say it, because sometimes I'm in the Word, and they'll say, be in the Word, but also live it.
That's a little bit more challenging trying to live the word because I've
Yeah.
tried it. It's a little bit more harder to do.
Right. I like to be in the
I've been
Word because I
trying to-
enjoy it. And also, like one of the things that like Christ said that sticks with me when he says, act like the dove, but know how the serpent thinks. You know, so Christ is, my sister says, he's a radical. Know how the serpent thinks. He's no, and another thing I like Christ is, if you're exalted, you'll be humbled.
Yep.
But if you're humbled, you'll be exalted. And I told you how that relates to something I did in Nevada. You know, like you'll be at a bar. Oh, get them another one, get them another one. You know, you're exalted, big shot. And then you're humbled later because you're not feeling good or, you know, where on the opposite
used to be
side,
me.
be humble and you'll be exalted. Go to church on Sunday morning, you wake up fresh. And so those were some good ones to me. You know what I found out recently? I didn't know that John the Baptist, who baptized Jesus, was his first cousin.
No, I didn't realize. I know that Pastor Jordan talked about when, before Jesus was born, John was the first one to recognize him in the womb.
Right, in the womb. Yup.
I didn't realize that John
I
was
didn't
his
know that
cousin
either. Right.
But I remember Pastor Jordan had mentioned that a while back.
Yeah. Pastor Jordan's a wonderful teacher. That's
He
what I
is.
think of him as, a teacher. You know, I think of his dad more of his like fired up.
Well, I think how he became a good teacher was because he had his dad as like his mentor.
Right.
He had his dad as like a strong mentor in his life.
Yeah, but you see the difference in the way they preach.
They
though.
do, yes.
Because Pastor Jordan will get fired up, but not in the same
Not
way.
the same way as
There's
his dad,
a different approach. And like Julius, I would think preaches more like Pastor Jordan. Don't you think?
I do. I do
Maybe
believe that,
Pastor Steve's one of a kind. He's a one of a kind. Boy, were you there the last time we had the outdoor service where it rained?
Yes, I was.
And so Pastor Steve was preaching outside for the first service at 9:15. Then it rained. We got through that and we went inside.
Yes, I was there for that.
Did you notice how he crushed it at 11 a.m. inside? That crowd was fired
That
up.
crowd was fired up.
You know, my sister attended that day. You know, it was amazing how they got all the band got everything going.
Well, I think I think the best part of it is we got all the stage, we got all the music equipment put away before the van came.
Yeah.
We didn't get all the tents and everything put down, but all
Right. Yeah, that was
all
amazing.
all the musical equipment was packed up and on the truck by that time.
Yeah, because I'm hearing now, we're recording this show in February, but I'm hearing now they're discussing at the church maybe not doing as many outdoor.
I heard about that. Yes.
And the thing is, I admit it, I didn't like the idea of outdoors last year. I thought, let's stay inside, but I changed my mind. I loved it outside.
I think outdoor would be a lot cooler because you can fit more people out in that field.
Right, and I think you got more chance bringing new people in outdoors.
I think so too.
You know, because it's like a festival. So I'm hoping maybe, just like you were saying something this week, maybe not having a service outside, but have something maybe in the field where you could walk around or something where
Oh, yeah.
you're outside.
Well, maybe if they have service inside and say they have like activities after
Outside,
say
yeah.
after second service, you have
Yep.
something going on outside.
Yeah, because you noticed, because I worked with you. That's how I met you, setting
Was
up on the
outside,
outside
exactly.
crew. We would start setting up at 7 a.m.
S-
Carlos would be there at
Carlos would
6:30
be-
with
yeah,
some of you
exactly.
guys. But for the most part, when we opened up those trailers at 7 a.m., we were done at 8:30.
Exactly. Yes.
And then we had from 8:30 to 9:15 to hang around.
hang around.
Because wasn't it fun though, setting up?
It was.
And then you would see the welcoming team come in, and I just loved outside.
Same.
So I hope we do that again. I think a lot of they were saying that you know, and you see how you got to bring the vendors. It's a big production.
It is a big production.
But that was one. Now, you were going to the church before COVID when they had the outdoor. I started after that.
I was because they weren't allowed to gather inside,
Right.
so they had to have it outside.
Imagine that. So they said you couldn't, because you still see now
But it was
driving
either-
around.
But
No,
it was either they didn't gather outside or they just had it online.
right, because you see, even now I drive by churches and they'll still say we're online. It's
Yeah, I see it
amazing. It will still say they're online because there's a big Baptist church. It's near Plainfield Pike on 295. I don't know if you know where that is.
I don't know. I don't think
I
so.
think they moved things around to get Citizens headquarters in, but it's a giant Baptist church, and I think they're just starting to get back in.
Well, it was kind of because the last crew I had with Pastor David, his wife had mentioned that if we didn't during COVID, that if we didn't get back together for service, she was going to go somewhere else.
Wow.
So I think that maybe she had done something to get awakened and to get back together.
Oh, yeah, because but you notice how, because Pastor Jordan was saying it this week, he was having fun with it.
He was.
How church is growing in the packed house, all during COVID, But isn't it amazing how it's packed? But because I talk to you, I can go through the list of a lot of us, we know each other, where we're the only ones in our family that goes to church.
Exactly, yes.
So how are we packed and none of us are getting at least one or two friends to go? I got my brother to go, but like your friends or people you work with, they'll know you go, but they never say, like my brother said, I'll come check it out. He was open-minded.
I think it's because a lot of people are still focused on what's going on around them.
Yep.
That they don't know how to get out of that.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I was one of those people who didn't know how to get out of it.
Yeah, because like I said, I was lucky when I started going to church. I was working in the supermarket industry, just talking to a lady. I was working in the dairy then. So we were talking about breakfast foods,
Yeah.
And she just turned away and walked back and gave me the card. And she said, my church is having a Bible study tomorrow night. And that was on a Tuesday, and Wednesday I was there.
Yeah.
That's how I started. She was an angel in my life. You know what I mean? Because it got me going. Because in the supermarket industry, you work Sundays. So if it wasn't for those Wednesday nights, like we're having Wednesday nights now, and you'd be surprised how some people are going to start on Wednesday nights.
Exactly, because I think it's hard for some people to go on Sundays. Like you said,
yep.
Because we live in a corporate world.
Yeah.
Where everything is open 7 days a week.
Right.
And
yep.
you live in a corporate world, you have to work the weekends.
Right. That's a good point. I'd like to look into that a little, because they used to call that the blue laws, where they didn't have places open on Sunday.
I think there's a few places around the country that are not open on Sundays.
Right. Yeah.
But there's like very, very few.
So because that's going to keep a lot of people out of church. But churches could grow if they start doing things like opening up on Saturdays.
Exactly. I think Awakening would open up.
Yeah.
If they did, obviously had service on Saturday nights.
Saturdays, right. Because like I said, I started on Wednesday nights. When I go to church on Sunday, I'll put a cross on the Sunday, because then I like to know what's going on during the month.
Yep.
Like if I go to the gym, I'll put a G. Then you could see. But for me, a lot of times, because I was working so many Sundays, if I would miss a Sunday, you know what I'd do? I'd go to a Catholic Mass. Half hour, you can find a Catholic Mass. They're all over the place. 8 a.m., 8:30, 9. I remember once I was sitting at the Catholic Mass, and a guy, Ed, he worked in the casino, because they have casinos in supermarkets in Las Vegas. Gotcha. And he came and sat down to me. He said, I like the morning Masses, a weekday, because he went like this. You're out of here in a half an hour. You know what I mean? But it's good to, because I still do have my foot in the Catholic Church. I love about the Catholic Church, I love the beauty of the churches. With the Protestants, when they have it more plain, they want it more about Christ. But you made a point, and I didn't know that I've been going to classical symphonies, and you said that you enjoy that music.
I do, yes.
Right, and I didn't know that some of those composers, their music, they were Protestants, was dedicated to Christ. A lot of that classic, isn't that interesting?
It is interesting. I didn't know that either.
Yep, I think it was Brahms, but I don't know where the music. Now there's no lyrics, but the music was dedicated to Christ. So they love the Lord.
I think Mozart's. I know Mozart's is like that. I don't know if all of it is, but I know some of it is.
Because you notice our church, we'll have the big cross, but there's no artwork. Now a lot of it they don't want to have. Say images of the saints, So I think a lot of that was, I talked to Julius, at some point artists would say, how many depictions can we do of Christ? If you open it up a little and let us do paintings of Mother Mary, John the Baptist, everything. So that's one of the things is, because in Catholic Church, you'll have
work all over the place.
Yeah, you'll have a statue of Mary, and you have a statue of Christ, and you can go light a candle.
Or then on the windows, you'll have artwork on the windows.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. The Baptist church, I know down the street from our church, Ocean State Baptist.
Yep.
When I first moved back to Rhode Island, I went there twice. I went to Awakenings once, trying to find the new church. It's very important to find the right one. And then COVID hit. And then I went like 9 months without going to church, and then I came back. But Ocean State Baptist looks like our church inside, a little more decorative not as far as paintings, but the architecture.
I've been there a couple of times, but I haven't sat in. I just went to check it out. I haven't actually sat in the mass yet.
Have you been inside?
I've been inside, but I haven't actually sat into a mass yet.
Yeah, and right now they are back because my brother drives past there to come to our church, and he'll say, "Oh, they're packed down there." I say, "Yeah, they are packed," but I said, "You know what? They used to have 2 services on Sunday. They're still regrowing now with 1 because they kind of shut down." So a lot of these, the enemy must love this. Church is shutting down.
Oh, I'm sure.
But I'm thinking there's going to be a revival. I think so. What do you think?
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think because with all the issues the last few years going on, and people are searching for what to believe, what not to believe.
Yeah.
Like I've noticed, especially with some people I used to talk to, I haven't talked to in a while. They've been coming to Christ. Wow. There's been, I one of my a person I work with who doesn't go to Christ but works at a bookstore part-time.
Yep.
She was telling me that she's seen more Bible sales in the last 2 years than ever before.
Good.
And she's been working here she's working at this bookstore part-time for the past several years.
So she's seen.
And she's telling me within the last 2 years there's been more sales. There's more sales in the Bible, more people wanting the Bible.
Wow.
She was telling me that they had to constantly reorder Bibles on a day-to-day basis.
See that? Because like Christians, we don't really say that we are Christians. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't say in the supermarket, "Oh, I go to church." We kind of keep it to ourselves, if you notice. Like if me and you, we could have been going to different churches, and if we would have known each other, we might not have said that we go to church.
Exactly. Who knows?
Now, why don't we do it? We don't want to feel like we're... I don't think it's because we're embarrassed, because we and you wouldn't care.
No, I think it's because there's biases between the churches that you go to. I think a lot of it has to do with that.
And a lot of times people think
opinions.
If you go to church, then they're a lot of times like at work where people, if they know you go to church, they might think you're a pushover. They'll find out. I remember I was talking to one of the ladies at the church. I won't say her name, an executive. And I said, "Man, I'm having some..." It was about time we were both having drama at work. And I was saying, she said, "Oh, don't mess with God's children." Because I think if you're soft-spoken, that you're a pushover.
I'm soft-spoken.
Yeah, like at work, I don't really talk to many people. I kind of, I'm talkative, but if they think, he's not, they'll try and roll all over you. Then they find out when you stand up for yourself. But because it's rough out there. I mean, because we were talking about something that went on at your workplace and mine, where sometimes a boss will really be rough on people, and you gotta. I'm not saying I taught my coworker how, but now I think she knows. Because when I was bringing up our concerns to higher up, you got to.
Because you don't do it.
If you don't stand up for yourself, and she was like, "I could have never done that." You know what I mean? Like, and all I was doing 4 minutes talking about what was going on in that department. But then a couple weeks later, I saw her talking a little smack to the boss. Like, good.
I think you have to, because if you don't do it, no one's going to do it for you. But the boss might not even realize that.
Yeah, might not even know. So you got, hey, one of the first things I said to when I met Julius was I said about the church. He met me in the coffee shop. I was looking out the window, and I said, "Boy, you guys talk a lot of smack here." He said the truth. I said, "Yeah." I said, Jesus talked a lot of smack. That's what got him killed, but because Jesus did talk smack.
He did, yes.
He would be like telling those Pharisees, "Oh, you're praying in the market square where everybody could see you're holy, holy. But how about when you're in your room when no one can see?" Because it was amazing. Christ didn't commit any crimes. Actually, he was almost like helping people.
He was.
He was almost like a non-profit entity helping people, and they're the ones they go after him.
Well, he says it. When you come to Christ, people are going to hate. Well, not hate, but persecute you because of him.
Yeah, but that's interesting because Christ says, "If you deny me before people, I'll deny you before the Father." So you got to stick up with him. But isn't it something? Well, he knew. Why would they come at us for following these teachings, beautiful teachings, peaceful teachings?
Because I think it's because we're not accustomed to what the word says. You know, we don't grow up. We're not. So we have to teach ourselves.
Right, yeah, because
I
we're
think
in the world.
I think people are too hesitant to change how they act and think.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes, like you said that earlier in this broadcast, people, they don't, but some people want to change.
They do, yes.
They want to change, but if you're in the world, it's not as easy as when you come to these teachings, these
I've
peaceful,
noticed that
peaceful
too, yes.
teachings, you know. And you know, because I don't know enough about it, we'll have to work with you on this, where Buddhists are persecuted for those peaceful teachings.
Too, yes.
And they're not, the Buddhists aren't, they're not worshiping a deity, a god. They just have, and I don't mean just, but they have a peaceful philosophy, and they're still being persecuted because the world don't want that. They want us to be like my buddy.
They want us to be like atheists.
Right.
Which they could I never understood. Like, I knew what atheists were, but when Pastor Jordan mentioned about atheists recently,
Yep.
and how it got me thinking, it's like, how do atheists get by in the world?
Right. Yep. Yeah, because they just believe it's all random. You know, I don't know how, I could see how, because we talked about how it seems like cable TV or mainstream media is controlled by the enemy.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is. I think so too. Because I've been off cable TV for 6 years. I go on YouTube, I'm off that junk.
Same thing with me. I'll go on YouTube or Netflix or something like that.
Yeah, pick what I want to watch. But I notice at the gym they'll have all the TV screens, no sound, but you could just see, like watching TNT, every third scene, someone's got a bloody face. You know, they make it cool, like to point a gun at you. I mean, this got to stop at some point. I mean, it's not cool.
No.
All this violence.
But I think
they make it cool.
People think it's cool.
They think it's
same thing with the video games too. Like, I've noticed with the video games. But
thank God I never got into those.
That's why I don't play video games that much.
Right.
Anymore. I used to play all the time.
Thank goodness I never got into those movies, because I was listening to two of my customers at Stop and Shop talking about those Marvel movies, and they were like into them. Like, those movies are positive. I mean,
no, there's violence
everywhere.
Ever seen.
Like, what's so redeeming about those movies? Captain America, he's got a shield, and he's just hitting people over the head with it. Those aren't other superheroes. Those are humans.
Yeah.
So what makes that so cool? It's not cool. But we got to start having some kind of pushback. But that's easy to control the masses with junk like that, don't you think?
I think so. But I think, because I think a lot of people just, with what we're exposed to, whether it be video games or TV or even books, or music. That's why Pastor Jordan said you have to watch that with what we feed our minds.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because I'm doing a lot better now in the digital age on YouTube. It works
Same thing
for
with
me.
Like, I don't watch violent stuff on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
I don't listen to violent. Like, I mean, I used to be a huge heavy metal fan as a kid.
Yep.
So I don't listen to heavy metal. I mean, I still listen to it, but not as frequent as before.
Right. Because it was something that Pastor Jordan mentioned when what you listen to or affects how you think. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, heavy metal was like not evil, but it was kind of, there's a lot of cursing in it. There's a lot of talking down to women,
right,
and all that. So it's like I don't really listen to it.
And
much
that's
anymore.
in rap too.
And rap too. That's I don't listen to it.
Right, because I notice in rap, like I'll see this again at the gym, and sometimes they'll have closed captions, but you could see where it's almost like, I think it's the record companies, because I don't think those artists would come in wanting to say that. And these could be female or male. I don't think they'd want to come in with those kind of lyrics. But I think it's almost like the corporate saying, "Oh yeah, you gotta do that." In other words, you could do rap where you could still be talking tough like Jesus, like really, talking smack, but you could do it in a positive way. But I was watching a show recently. My buddy turned it on. He's really in the world, and I've tried, because he'll watch all these shows.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? And I was watching Curb Your Enthusiasm. Funny show, the co-creator of Seinfeld. I'm not going to get into the subject matter, but there was no way I would think Larry David would write a script making that subject comedy. I'm not going to say what it is. That's the world. I think that was like, it has to be. It had to be. You don't use a subject like that in a comedy show. And I don't think he would do it, but I think sometimes if you're on HBO, or they're like, well, you'll be doing you'd be doing us a solid if you kind of make this subject cool. That's in the world. which they do with violence. But
same thing with video games.
Right.
It's like almost all the video games there's some kind of
violence. Yep.
Violence in it.
And how come there's no pushback? You know.
I don't know.
Because I remember years ago they were getting on Senator Gore's wife because she was bringing up concerns about these video games, and they were making her like she was like, what? You can't bring up your concerns, you know? So and they're making her
they made her like the bad guy.
Right? How is she the bad guy? She's addressing concerns. First Amendment. Yeah. There's too much violence in them. They're garbage, and that's why sometimes I've learned it now. If cable TV says something bad, maybe go the other way.
Yes.
Because that's how they are.
But I mean, I noticed it, like, especially around, not just with family, but with some of my friends outside of church, where if, say, they play a violent video game or something, especially with the men, they'll take their frustrations out on their wife.
Oh, yeah.
Like, whether it be with arguments or whether it be with violence.
Or, because those video games...
Because those video games are feeding their minds, like, it's okay to... say beat up your wife or beat up your children or talk down to your wife or whatever it is.
And you could say the same thing about that. There's a lot of movement online now, thank God, about men of realizing that those adult videos, like the world will say, oh, that's what men do. No, they're not good for you.
They're not, yeah.
They're not. And it's thousands of years of teachings. It's actually in that book, you've heard about it, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill in the 1930s. He was talking about, kind of be celibate, you know what I mean? But in our generations, they make it like cool to go to those videos, like on Entourage. It's not cool, but because one guy, because there's a whole community building up online about like it's called leveling up, get your spirituality right, get your diet right, work towards these things. And one guy said, I can't say certain words because the algorithm will come at me. Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
You're trying to do something positive, but the algorithm, no, don't go there because they want us to be, like my buddy Mike Barone would say, they want us to be like sheep,
Well, I have it with my cousin. I mean, my cousin, he's into, like, the violent video games, what do you call it? The horror movies. Like, every time I see a horror movie with him, I'm like, we're seeing people get body parts chopped off.
Right.
It's like every scene you're seeing bloody, you're seeing people either getting killed or blood. Or stabbed or. But like, I mean, he took. I forget the name of the movie, but he took me to a horror movie a while back. It was right before COVID hit. I'm like, why? Because it was like every scene was seeing someone get killed. Or stabbed. Or seeing body parts come and fly. I was like, how is this like?
How is it cool?
How is it cool? He thinks it was cool. He thinks it was one of the greatest movies he ever saw. I'm like, how?
Wow.
All we've seen is people getting chopped up. Because people getting murdered in the movie.
Because I remember I didn't see Breaking Bad when it was on TV, but when you started hearing about it in the culture, how big a hit it was,
I heard about that.
I watched it later, and I watched the whole thing. And for a time there, I was putting it in my top 10 shows of all time. Now I took it out because it's too much violence.
Same thing with me. So I took it out too.
You took it out too.
I was into it.
Me too.
But then it's like, I forget what season it was.
It was just too much. Making it cool.
Too much violence for me.
Yeah, or like when Walter White was watching that lady die of the overdose, so he could have did something. That's a little too much for me. And now some people, when they're in the world, they'll say, like my buddy would say, well, that happens. Oh, so if things happen, then just put it on TV? That's your right? You could say that about human rights in Saudi Arabia. Then why don't they put that on TV?
Exactly.
They don't say a word. You don't hear anything about that on cable TV, what's going on there. But right now they're in this big frenzy about Russia with nothing's going on. Why I think they make Putin the bad guy? Because they're opening up churches in Russia.
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, thousands of them. And the corporate media doesn't like churches because who also they put down? Bolsonaro in Brazil.
Yep.
He's an evangelical. His wife's a Catholic.
What's his name?
Orban in Hungary.
Yeah, I forgot about
and
him.
Wait a minute. The four that you were saying to the bad guy, all the ones that are opening up churches. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out. So just something to keep in mind. But I really think what I was saying is, I don't understand why none of the churches. Well, how come churches they didn't have some Super Bowl ads? Come to church on Sunday. Nothing. Why don't we buy what you think Christ would be saying? What don't you guys? You don't think we should be doing that? Or now shows. Remember that show? I didn't watch it. Tim Allen, Last Man Standing. It was a show. They would get on him because they were saying grace over at dinner. And they were making him like he was the worst thing going.
I don't think I saw that one.
Right. Imagine coming after a show because you're saying grace on dinner. Oh, but shows with violence are fine.
Well, shows with violence or pornography.
Right. Oh, that's fine. Right. Yeah. So hopefully people will start waking up in the digital age. I think they are. What I'm concerned about is someday, we'll wake up and we'll go on our phone or computer and it'll be like TV from 1952. They could do that if they want. Just press the button. So right now, let's just, we're in a good place in the digital world. Like Pastor David and I was talking a couple weeks ago, we were both thankful that a lot of these teachings in the Bible still survived.
Exactly, yes.
So we should be very thankful for that. There's some that have been, I think still going to be uncovered. But like moving forward, what do you think Christians and people should do to, make the world a little more peaceful, workers' rights?
That's kind of a tricky subject.
Because we know corporations, they don't like workers' rights. They want to keep us down.
I think it's kind of because I studied history all throughout college. So, I used to read all about workers' rights and...
Yeah.
It's kind of a little tricky
to take.
What could the world do to make?
Right. Because I think it's more of an individual thing. I think people just have to be willing to accept Christ. Yep.
And then when they build their foundation in Christ, when they can start learning how to speak up for themselves or stand up for others, and
right. Yep.
But I think it has to start at an individual level. I don't think the corporate. I think if it starts in the corporate level, it's just going to get too... It's just going to get too messed up. I think if it starts individual...
Yep.
That's how Dr. Martin Luther King got his started with him, because he started at the individual level.
Oh, okay.
And eventually he was able to inspire a whole nation to change.
Yeah, he was one of the best.
He was.
I mean, I found out recently, I know, maybe forgot, but he was a Baptist minister.
Oh, I
didn't know that because I started a Baptist church, so that means a lot to me. You know what I mean? Because I have a tradition. One of my favorite movies, that Lilies of the Field, with Sidney Poitier, was a Baptist.
I saw that one.
And the other show I loved, The Waltons, where they were Baptists. I remember when John Boy in the show wrote his book. He said to his father, "Well, Daddy, I kind of wrote you out to be a heathen," because his daddy didn't go to. That's what they call him, Daddy or Mama. He said, because his father didn't go to church. He said, "Daddy, I kind of wrote you out to be a heathen." But he said, "Mom, I kind of wrote you out to be a Baptist." And she said, "That's fine by me."
I don't think I saw that movie. Is it a movie or TV show?
Show? Okay. That show, because it was about a family that was together, it premiered. It was the number 2 show in the country within its second week. It was in the early 70s because people were so starved for a show that was about a healthy family. Because during the 60s, if you look at the 60s, I could name off like 20, 30, way more than 20 single parents over and over and over. And that's kind of like Marxism 101, break up the nuclear family. You can go through shows in the 60s because divorce didn't hit till the 70s. And in those shows in the 60s where it was all single parents, it goes on and on. Bonanza, My 3 Sons, I can go on and on. Partridge Family, The Rifleman. We could probably sit here and come up with 40 shows, single parents in the 60s. And you know what? None of it was divorced. It was all the spouse died.
Gotcha.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing?
And that's why I think when the Waltons hit in 71, a show about a healthy family, it was an instant hit.
Okay. So I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah, so that's...
Is it still available, do you know?
The Waltons is on... right now it's on Amazon Prime, IMDb, which will have commercials.
I'll have to check it out.
And there's a great episode 1. It's called The Literary Man, where John Boy, he's an aspiring writer. He meets a writer. But this writer travels all around, but he talks too much. He even says, "I talked all my stories away." You know what I mean? And he told John Boy, keep doing what you're doing, writing about your family. And he says, don't go chasing that Moby Dick, that great story, that Call of the Wild. He was saying, write about your family, write about, the people who love you, and maybe that'll be your great story. So it was an amazing show. The opposite of what you're going to see now on TNT.
I'm sure. I'll have to check it out then.
But coming up at church, we started out this podcast talking about baptism. I loved it. Pastor David said to me, I said, I was worried I wouldn't feel different a couple of weeks, and he pointed at me, you are different. You know
he
what
told
I
me
mean?
the same thing when I joined his crew because he had asked me about baptism. If I said
you
it
are
was.
different, and I've noticed things have been going great since then. In prayer, you could see now in church. Church is so interesting because, like, we've been going for a while now. We see how you'll see new people in the church.
Exactly. Yep.
Like a couple of people now are seeing, I haven't seen them around, and now, which that's interesting. Now you see others leave. Who knows? They could leave the state, but that's just the way it is.
I've seen so many people in my time with Awakening. I've seen so many people that would help me early on.
Yep.
That don't even go there anymore.
Oh wow! Yeah. Oh, what do you mean when you
when I first started coming to Awakening, there was people that I met that I was actually became good friends with. They stopped showing up.
Wow. Yeah.
But these are people that helped me early on, and now they don't go anymore.
Right.
Either they got married or they moved. Or
right. I remember someone like that for me. All of a sudden, she wasn't there anymore. We were just starting to talk, you know what I mean? And just gone. And it could be, you don't know what the reason is. It could be you might have got a job. You don't know. You might have been, things aren't happening for me here. It could be a myriad of reasons. But, that is interesting. But then you see the stalwarts like us. Boy, we're there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're in our grind with our friends. We're there.
We're there when we don't want to be there.
Yep, we're there.
And we have a good time even when we don't want to be there.
Right. There some days you're like, man, like so many great servants there, like Tom doing
Julius,
a great job, Julius.
Tyler,
one of the greats. He was one of the greats. He was the one that gave me the information about, because he's a trainer.
He told me about that too, yeah.
Yeah, he gave me good information about train your lower body. Don't just be upper body. But he's a warrior.
He's a warrior.
Tyler.
He's been gone through some rough stuff.
Well, a lot of with him is kind of like with us.
Yeah.
And I'm getting some people in his family to go. That's why when I introduced my brother, I could see some of you guys lighting up like Christmas trees, like, oh, you got someone in your family to go.
Exactly.
But boy, I'm surprised that like people don't say, maybe I'll check it out. But like Pastor David says, well, let them see how you are, But sometimes you want to try and convince them to go.
I think a lot of it has to do with like opinions of other people. Like maybe because my dad's like that. Because he'll go on like YouTube and see it on YouTube, but like Google to see what other people have said about Awakening Church before.
Oh.
So I think a lot of it has to do with what other people have said about it, rather than going to test it for yourself, like Pastor Jordan says.
Right. Yeah, because me and you are kind of like we could care less.
Yeah.
So that's what I like about you. Like I'm doing it. You know what I mean? I don't care. Like they might like at work, for instance, if I convince someone to go, others would be like, oh, now they're going. But they won't. Just come out and say it. I don't know. I just think people should give it a shot. If you don't like it, I mean, what are you gonna? It's better than watching Fox News on Sunday morning.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, but for whatever reason, do you ever think sometimes you wish Christ would have came to you earlier in life?
I kind of do, because it seems like some of like the leaders who are younger than me that are there. They're like well developed, and it's like some of them already have. Some of them have families of their own.
Right. Yep.
But it's like I try not to be envy of that.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to.
Right,
but I try
because you had that foundation like we have now.
Yeah, see, I didn't have that foundation. That's the only thing I wish.
Right.
Like, say if I was like someone like Pastor Jordan, who had like his dad, who was already the lead minister or lead pastor at the time.
Yeah.
Someone like that in my family.
Yeah.
Or someone like Pastor David, who grew up around the church. I didn't grow up around
me neither.
the church.
Because I think about that too. Because say I would have, like my mom wasn't, and my parents weren't into church, right? But now she feels a little bad because she knows I'm religious, I guess the way they put it. But I say no. And I said when I was about 13 or 12, because me and my friends could have found our way and gone our own. But I guess that's the way the Lord wanted it.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
us,
Same with that's how I look at it. That's how Pastor David told me to look at it. It's like, well, maybe at the time, it wasn't meant for you at the time.
Yeah.
Like he's like, there's no. But it kind of, But it's like that's the only thing I wish I came to Christ earlier in
Yeah,
life.
me too. Like about 12.
See, when I was like 12 or 10, or
Yeah, me too.
at
I
least
think
have that foundation. So when I hit my
Right.
20s,
Yeah, because if you come to the Christ at 12, you have the sins of a 12-year-old to work on moving forward.
rather than because
Whoa,
I came at 30 years old,
Yeah,
so I
so
had the
you-
sins of my entire life.
Right, to work, and same with me. And then now looking back, you can say, oh, wow, I could see now I don't do those things. But boy, like I said, if you came to Christ at 12, oh, you got the sins of it. My mom made a good point.
But-
Go ahead.
But I've also seen people who have been in Christ their whole lives.
Yeah,
So I don't know if I was talking to you about this recently, but when they got out of that, when they started getting into the world, like especially when I was in college, like I knew people who were with Christ their whole life.
yeah,
But as soon as they got to college, they were like the worst. They were like all into like the parties and
Yeah.
the sex and the drugs because they
Yeah.
didn't have that when they were in Christ their whole life.
yeah, because,
But they became like wild people because
wow.
they didn't have that when they were growing up. So when they got to college,
Oh, yeah,
they got exposed to the sex, the drugs, the alcohol, the parties, and all that.
yeah.
So they'd be all into. They'd be like the late night partiers.
Yeah, because like we weren't in the church growing up. Because I noticed a number of people I've been talking to, a couple of them are new in church, where they went to church when they were like teenagers, then they
Yep.
got away from it, and then
They
they
did.
came back. Where I still think it would be nice to grow up in it, have that discipline,
Exactly,
those
same.
values, and then because you could see the people at our church.
Like someone like Alfredo who was been in the church his whole life,
Yeah,
or like Liddy who's been in the church her whole life,
yeah.
where they have those values installed in them.
Yep. Yeah, like me and you were in the
Was-
world, and I guess you could say for our buddies also, we were in the world. Isn't that reason how they put us together, our crew?
It is, yes, exactly.
We were in. We weren't with Christ. We were in the world. Then did you notice before you came to Christ, like it says, when you're reaching out to Christ, He's already been reaching out to you. Do you notice parts in your life where you might have been praying, where you were kind of saying, "I got to get out of this," or
Well, yeah, like the big thing with me is like with the friends. I
Yeah.
didn't have any friends, like I said, the career. I didn't have I was bouncing from job to job to job.
yeah,
So I didn't have, and obviously living on my own.
yeah.
So I mean, I've seen, obviously with the friends was the first thing. Then came living on my own.
yeah,
Then came the career because I'm not bouncing from job to job to job anymore
right.
like
yeah,
I
so
was
you're
before.
so you're crushing it. You're doing a
Kinda,
good job,
yes.
yeah. And then we keep moving forward.
Now, what about you?
I'm doing great.
Okay.
I mean, I'm doing great. I mean, I got it. But now you notice you want to do more.
I want
You
exactly.
want to do more where you want to keep busy. No, I don't have regret, but I think I find it interesting to look back and say, wow, it would have been nice if I would have had that foundation. But that's the way it is. Things
Exactly.
are great now, and it's all good. you
Now,
know?
now the next step is for the two of us and our other buddies to find a partner.
Right, but you've been noticing at the church because wherever we were saying last summer when we were doing the shows out at Smithfield, we were talking about, wow, there's so many nice ladies at church, but when they walk by us, we see
haven't.
wedding ring, ready, we're ready. And I said, well, maybe we just got to wait for the next crop,
Exactly.
which
that's
now
what I
you
was
can
thinking.
see it. You know
I'm
what I
starting
mean?
to see it now, where there's like,
Yeah,
because with me, I know you mentioned this to me before, but if I start talking to a girl, I notice there's a ring on them.
right.
It's like, I mean, I'll still talk to her, but I'm not gonna like be serious conversations with her.
Right, yeah, because I do the same thing. Like there was a lady when I first started going to church. She worked at the coffee shop. I really liked her. But then when I saw a wedding ring, now I don't play that game.
Same here. I don't want
I
to be playing
don't
that
do
game.
it. I mean, I'll be civil, but it's not going to be. I just don't do it.
Exactly. Same
So
with
I
me.
kind of like. But sometimes it's you see at church, and like, wow, and then I'll walk by your wedding ring. Oh, well, go find one who doesn't have a wedding ring and try to talk to her.
It's hard though.
Yeah, but it is. But I think now I'm seeing in the
I'm
church.
starting to see, as the church is growing, I'm starting to see more single.
Right.
Not just with,
Yeah.
but seeing a lot more single women coming in. So
Right.
there's-
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good thing.
Yes,
so you
that's
see,
a
we
good
had
thing.
to stay patient and nice people,
Yeah,
the
exactly.
best. And like something like a lady I work with, she made a kind of a point like with us, when you meet someone who goes to church, it almost, it doesn't elevate them, but it's more of a comfort level, we'll say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you have that in common. You go to church and all these things. Well, we are going to wrap up this podcast, Steve. We did 2 podcasts today at What Cheer Writing Club in Providence.
It's a nice place. It's a nice place to come
wonderful
to.
podcast
See all the
studio.
different podcasts up here.
Yep. So
We'll have to add it. We'll have to add to it.
right. So we did 2 podcasts today. Just what we've been wanting. Because we started out doing the shows. This is the first time we've been indoors.
It is.
Every time we did shows, we've been outdoors. We hit the streets.
Yeah, exactly.
The only one indoors was inside that baseball dugout. That was technically outdoors.
That was technically outdoors, yes.
But this is good. So we're going to get Jordan down here for the next
And
one.
Rodney and Tyler.
And Rodney and Tyler, we're going to do a double let him talk his 49ers. That'll be a dream.
It would be.
But this is the way to do it, too. Maybe book 2 hours and just do 2 podcasts. But we're going to wrap up this podcast, Rhode Island Spirituality. My name is Joe Mahan.
And I'm Steve Kuplast.
Thank you for listening. See you on the next one. God bless.